It's mailbag time. Welcome, everybody. It is Friday, July 11th. Time for a mailbag with your questions from our Draft-A-Thon page. Your questions via email at fantasyfootball@cbsi.com. That's the letter I. Apple Podcast questions. Please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Tell people why you love our show, and then you can ask a question. And, of course, your YouTube comments. Adam Azer and Jamie Eisenberg. No Dan today. That is sad. But he'll be back, hopefully, on Monday on CBS Sports Network. We're going to be on CBS Sports Network Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So please check that out. What's up, Jamie?
I think we should have our audience guess where Dan is. And then Monday we ask him, see if we're right. Because I don't know.
I have no idea where he is.
Yeah, all right. So post your comments on our YouTube chat or wherever you want to send them. And we'll see who has the funniest guess of where Dan is.
This is a great idea. All right, so we got a couple of news items here. Najee Harris suffering an eye injury in a fireworks accident, but seems to be fine. Apparently a superficial eye injury. So I don't think this changes anything, right, for Hampton and Harris?
I did see it was either Rappaport or Schefter. One of their reports on this suggested that he may not be ready for training camp. I think the agent may have said that. So something to keep an eye on there, but it does not seem like it's anything major. But you just don't like to see stuff like this clearly from any perspective.
Yeah.
And, hopefully, I believe somebody lost maybe finger or a finger injury. Sounds terrible. Hopefully Najee's fine and can compete with Hampton for the starting role.
We were talking about that on July 3rd. I was hanging out with my friend, and we grew up in South Florida together. And in South Florida, you can just go buy really big fireworks. I mean, almost professional fireworks that just go explode up in the sky. They're really cool, but you can't do that in New York. And we were just saying, like, man, we were so stupid in high school. I can't believe we did that with no supervision, some really dangerous stuff. So please take it seriously, people. It injures every single year. Just too many stories like that, like Najee's. Matt Mayako of NBC Sports Bay Area expects Brandon Ayuk to start the season on the PUP list, which is no surprise. But he did say that week 1 is not out of the question. So that is good news for Brandon Ayuk. The expectation still would be that Ayuk starts on the PUP list, which would be a 4-game absence. Okay, we got some.
Did you watch Quarterback yet?
No, I've heard some good things. Is it good?
Yeah, I just finished it last night. It's good. I mean, I'm always into
that stuff. Yeah,
the documentary, especially Omaha Productions, Peyton Manning and those guys. They do such a great job, and so like it's just great. Like the whole Cousins Penix thing.
Yeah,
was interesting how it was handled. And Joe Burrow's season, in the Bengals fight. I mean, you saw a lot of it with the Hard Knocks, when they did the AFC North Hard Knocks. So you got a chance to see some of those things. But like the Burrow break-in situation was crazy. And Jared Goff, it was interesting to see a little bit more of Jared Goff because he's very, very behind the scenes kind of guy.
Anything fantasy relevant?
Nothing huge. I think there's nothing really.
Okay. All right.
The week 17 game, the T. Higgins game. Burrow was like, T's hot. It's a T game.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that was one thing I guess you could say. But nothing going into this year.
All right, folks. You got your guesses on where Dan is vacationing.
They're very good.
It's colonoscopy time for Dan. Dan is watching the Superman movie in IMAX. Dan is wearing a pedicure while wearing a purple robe and then going to get an orange Julius. Is that a reference of something?
It's a drink.
No, I get that, but is that like the Big Lebowski or something like that?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know that movie that well.
Let's see.
To quote it, at least. Sorry.
Yeah, it's overrated. Dan is in physical therapy for tennis elbow. Oh my gosh. I thought I had tennis elbow. I don't, thankfully, but I have a little bit of an elbow injury. I'm recovering though. I'm almost back.
I think I need elbow surgery.
No.
This is undiagnosed, but like I've thrown so many pitches in the last like 5 years to my children and my children's teams. Like it's painful.
Tommy John?
Maybe. It's very. It hurts.
Wow. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
And the funny thing about it is, like, I don't know with Andrew, like, if how he takes batting practice or what, but like my kids, especially my 2 older ones, I can't throw without a net in front of me at this point because they'll kill me.
Yeah.
And the net keeps getting closer and closer to home plate.
Jeez.
They're like, "Dad, why are you so close?" I'm like, "I
Well,
can't reach anymore."
you want to read this joke?
Um, sure.
No, it's all right. We'll leave it up there for the YouTube audience. Okay, let's get to the show here. First of all, vote for us on podcastawards.com. Go to podcastawards.com/app/sign up. We want to get to the next round. We want to win this for a second straight year. You all helped us win it last year. Great stuff. Podcastawards/app/sign up. Vote for fantasy football today in the sports category. If your name is Magic Giants and that's probably not your real name, and you donated on our Tiltify page and you asked us a question, we didn't get your question. So basically what you do is you pay for the question, $50 at least. You can pay more, and I think Magic Giants, in fact, did. And then in the comments section, you ask your question, and I'll read it on the air. Magic Giants, we did not get your question. Our helper, our employee, Claire, our teammate, working on this Draft-A-Thon project, Claire emailed you. Please email her back with your question, and we'll read it next week. Here are the other 9 that we're reading today. This one is from Liam. I know you've often mentioned that if a player shows you their age, you should believe them. Do you feel the same way about often injured players, or is that more of a random/circumstantial feature?
So I'm a little confused, I guess. The question would be is if a guy's coming back from injury or has dealt with injuries.
Do you think if a player is often injured, that means they are injury prone, basically?
That kind of ties into the question you asked about quarterback. Joe Burrow was, talking about him being potentially injury prone. He goes, "Yes, I've dealt with injuries." Do you consider Joe Burrow to be injury prone?
I don't, but it is worth mentioning. But like appendectomy, I don't,
So you have an appendectomy, you have a torn ACL, you have a wrist injury, calf injury. Like, he's dealt with 4 pretty significant injuries at times in his career, right? And they've hindered his fantasy production. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't necessarily consider him injury prone because the ACL is, not something. Oh, there you go. Hit the mic. Somebody will complain. The ACL is, he was tackled in a very awkward way. The wrist injury is not something I think that's, I hope not, at least not problematic year over year. So a player like that, for example, no. Christian McCaffrey, would you consider him injury prone?
I think so. I mean,
so again,
if anyone is, he's up there.
I think to sum it up, for me, it's, do they continue to suffer from soft tissue injuries? Because you break an ankle, you tear ACL, those type of things to me are more fluky. If it's like Christian Watson with the hamstring injuries, like that was so frustrating year over year. Like the ACL tear, okay, that's awful. But when he was continuing with the hamstring injuries, like that to me was more problematic than, because you could run away from that if you're looking at him as a fantasy option.
Yeah, I just remember one year where Dalvin Cook played all but one game, where he played every game. I think the same year DeAndre Swift came in with a lot of injury questions and he stayed healthy. I can't remember. I think McCaffrey was one of them too. There were 3 high-profile players that were always injured and they didn't get hurt. And that's basically when I just said I more or less don't care about injury history. There will be some exceptions. I think
Dave,
for me, but I still don't, like, I acknowledge T. Higgins is probably injury prone if there is an injury prone wide receiver being drafted early, but I don't care. I'll draft T. Higgins all day.
Dave says this a lot. I know the most recent one is Tyreek Hill. Like, you would rather not have him on the field hurt.
Playing hurt, yeah.
Because like we were starting him every week, right? For the most part.
Yeah.
His start percentage, I don't think ever went below like 85%. And so those are the players that really frustrate you. Guys that clearly are dealing with something. You understand why they're playing. They're fighting through for their team. They're trying to be good teammates. But then you have this awful scenario of they're just not producing.
By the way, okay, you remember I said in week 17 I benched Tyreek Hill for someone and I couldn't remember who it was. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure it was Dontavian Wicks. He had 4 catches for 43 yards on 5 targets. Dontavian Wicks scored 8.3 fantasy points. Tyreek Hill, because Tua wasn't playing, had 9 catches for 105 yards in horrible weather at Cleveland in week 17, scored 19.5 fantasy points. So I lost 11.2 points. I would have lost the game, and I lost in the finals that week. Would have lost anyway, thankfully. But that was who it was, Wicks. All right, next question from Richard. I often hear it said on the podcast that running backs have a higher injury risk than wide receivers. This may be true, but does this factor in the injury risk to a wide receiver's quarterback? Every year we have elite wide receivers who end up becoming unplayable after their quarterback goes down and a terrible backup comes in to replace them. I mean, that might be a little bit of a stretch, but it's a good point. And then he says, should we therefore be factoring backup quarterbacks for our wide receivers more? For example, should the Falcons, Rams, and Giants pass catchers get a small bump as they at least have serviceable backup options?
It's certainly something to consider. I mean, we have the Dolphin situation from a year ago when Tua went down the 6 games he didn't play. You mentioned the Tyreek Hill game in week 17 was good for him, but for the most part, Tyreek's numbers suffered. I mean, clearly there's going to be some situations where, the backup comes in and the other players still play well, right? So look at Dallas, right? CeeDee Lamb fell off, but didn't fall off completely when Prescott went out, right? Cooper Rush was okay for him. He just wasn't great.
He's okay. Lamb was playing hurt too.
Right. You had the situation in San Francisco, those couple games when there was no Brock Purdy and Jennings was peppered with targets with Josh Dobbs. I mean, it's a little rare situation because those two guys have a history together from their time in Tennessee in college. So I think first off, you shouldn't necessarily draft really ever based on what happens if the quarterback goes down, unless maybe it's Miami, just because Tua is another guy that you could say is, I guess, in the injury prone category. So I'm not basing my Chiefs evaluation on backup quarterback. I think it's Carson Wentz, a backup quarterback there for Kansas City, right? You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. And
no.
Oh my God, I can't draft Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow if he goes down again. Like Jake Browning's going to kill those guys, right? So it's not something you really want to factor in. Now, again, if you're nitpicking completely, the situations that, what they say, the Giants, the
Falcons, and the Rams.
I mean, maybe if you're, close on a player, so if, like Rams Neighbors and Drake London, I don't know.
Rams or Garoppolo. No, I think it's a good point, right? If you're close on a player and, sorry, wait, who the heck is, Dallas is back. Joe Milton is Dallas's backup. So if you were close on like Puka versus Lamb, I mean, I do think that, let's say Dak and Stafford, both of them who have injury histories, they're both out for the year. I would take Puka in a second over CeeDee Lamb, right? So you could factor that in if you wanted to. I just want to talk about this idea that running backs might be more injury prone than wide receivers. I meant to look this up before the show and I ran out of time. So I only have 1 year of data. Okay. But I looked at just the top 12 players per game at both positions, running back and wide receiver. And wide receiver was so much worse, right? So you're looking at the best performers at both positions per game. There were, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 top 12 per game running backs who missed at least 3 games, and only 1 who missed more than 3 games, and that was Ken Walker. At wide receiver, you had Rice. Rashee Rice played 3 games. Chris Godwin played 7. Nico played 12. Evans played 14. Adams played 14. Oh, I forgot. Puka played 11. Higgins played 12. 4 of the top 5 wide receivers on a per game basis, Rice, Godwin, Puka, and Higgins, played 12 or fewer games. So I'm not even sure it's true anymore. I know that's only 1 year, but I don't even look at running backs as more injury prone than wide receivers at this point. All right. Next up, question from,
I wonder if you did that though, from a draft perspective, how that would look.
I'll try. I think it's a worthy exercise. I've done it before. A few years ago, I did it, and running backs did show to be a little bit more injury prone, but then I feel like that kind of flipped. I'm not really sure why. I mean, you do get older wide receivers being, wide receivers, we like them at older ages than running backs, but I don't think that matters because I think young players get hurt too. Anyway, this next question is from Eric. And he says, I love salary cap drafts. Care to explain why it is the best, and where do you follow values for auction drafts? I don't know what he means by that, but thank you for the question. Oh, Eric. Sorry, I had the Heath Moan there instead of Eric. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll answer this question about salary cap drafts. And in case you missed my stupid tweet from earlier, I'm looking forward to talking about Bucky Irving and some numbers on him in a little bit. We'll be right back.
Hi. Novocaine?
Novocaine! Novocaine is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
You're gonna love this.
Oh, you're strong! It's wildly entertaining and an absolute blast.
I'm in.
Novocaine, rated R, now streaming on Paramount Plus.
All right, so let's talk about salary cap drafts and why they are the best. And I can't wait to get the softball team together for our draft in person, auction draft at my house, pizza, water for me. Going to be awesome. But why do you think salary cap drafts or auction drafts are the best?
You doing it at your house?
Yeah. Last year we did it at a bar and it took so long that they were just dying for us to leave. I felt so bad. So I'm going to host this time.
Do you have a sponsor for your softball team?
No.
Well, I mean, that's you're missing out. What you got to do is you get the bar to sponsor your softball team. And then you guys go there after every game.
A lot of guys do, yeah.
So, I mean, it's a perfect setup that you get them to sponsor, and then they'll stay open for you.
Yeah, they did stay open for us. They were nice about it, but I felt really bad. Anyway,
you just guarantee that you're going to spend a significant amount of money there, which it sounds like you do anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they
cover your softball fee. That's the way you go.
Salary cap drafts are the best because they are the most fair. Everyone has an opportunity to bid on every player. What do you like about them?
I mean, you said it, it gives you an opportunity to, basically control however you want to control it, if you wanted to get both of, Chase and Jefferson, Bijan and Barkley, two of the top 4 or 5 overall players, you could certainly try and do that. You can, not have to be at the mercy of waiting for your pick to come up in a draft. And so it takes a lot of that, it's more control in your own hands, depending on how you want to, build your team. So in terms of values, we do our own values. So I follow my own values for the most part of how I, view players. So if you look at our rankings page on CBS Sports, you can see how we have these players, priced out. I was looking the other day. I think Dave is a little bit higher than me and Heath on the top end guys. So we go on $100 budget. If it's $200, I always tell you just double it. But the values would be the same players that we consider sleepers and such. So if you're, looking at it from that perspective, I have quarterback and running back tiers on the site already. Wide receiver tiers will be up today. Hopefully tight ends not far after that. So you can see how we tier those players. That's always a good way to go about salary cap drafts is, getting the last player in a tier if there's a group of guys that you like.
Yeah, and Jamie said we use $100 budgets on our rankings page, which you can go to cbssports.com/fantasy and just click on football, click on rankings. He said double it if you're in a $200 league. Probably not necessarily the case for $1 players. $1 players could still be $1 players, I think, in any format, right? It's just like it's your low bid. Jamie has a great strategy where if he wants a DST or a kicker, he nominates them super early in the auction, and usually nobody wants to put $2. He nominates them for $1. Nobody wants to put $2 on it. If you're in a $200 league, maybe you spend $2. Nobody wants to put $3 on it, and then you just get your DST or your kicker. And if you don't, really not a big deal.
Anyway, the other big strategy I would also recommend is put players up for nomination early that you don't want.
Get money off the board, yeah. And we owe more time to auction strategies. I think it's a tough topic because snake drafts are somewhat predictable. Auction drafts are just every single one is so different. So it makes it a little bit challenging, but we'll talk more about it. All right, this is from Mike in Los Angeles. My friend Nick is one of those fantasy know-it-all guys. He says that 10-team leagues aren't real and are too easy. Will you please explain that 10-team leagues are legit and tell him that he's wrong?
They are legit. I mean, obviously, a lot of people, first off, we encourage you to play as much as you can, clearly. And if you can only find 9 other friends and that's the only people who want to do it, why would you not participate in a 10-team league? 8-team league, if that's all you could find. 6-team league, if that's all you can find. And there's different strategies to all these guys. Yes, 10-team leagues are a little bit easier because you're getting much more of a diluted or a robust talent pool of everybody having good teams. But there's still strategy to that, and there's still ways you have to sort of find a way to differentiate yourself. My oldest league is a 10-team league, and it's one of the toughest leagues to play in because you have to find ways to be better than the 9 other teams that are always stacked. So everybody's going to come out of their draft with, a loaded roster. So it's definitely fun, but it's, I think there's got to be, ways to sort of make it a little bit different, so do you add a second quarterback? Do you add, additional flex plays, so there's ways to, if you want to make it even more challenging, but still it's,
you don't have to. You don't have to, though. I mean,
no,
it's a regular 10-team league is fun. It's perfectly fine and it's fun.
When we get into 10 league discussions, which we don't do often, but we probably should as well, is you hear us say it's okay to take a quarterback earlier. It's okay to get a significant position advantage early because there's so few of those elite guys that if you have Lamar Jackson versus somebody taking Justin Fields, like that could be an 8-point difference. And that's tremendous in those leagues.
All right. How about who's next here? Glenn and Elijah from 2 towns. One is about 9 miles from Dan that starts with a P and ends with a Y. The other is around the corner from Heath, Dave, and Jamie's office. I'll let you handle that one.
I won't touch the other one. Near our office?
Around the corner from your office. What town is there?
Pompano?
Yeah, probably. He says, Dear Jaden, Jameer, Terry, Malik, and Saquon. Those are his winning team from the FFT Open last year. Nice. Like the good neighbors, this is our Glenn and Elijah, our FFT Open defending champions. According to Glenn and Elijah, I forgot, but congratulations. And they say, as the winner of the FFT Open last year, we wanted to know if an additional stake could be added for the winner. While charity is a great thing and we happily donated, could a guest spot on the show or free merch or a trophy be added?
We didn't do a trophy?
There are rules about what can and cannot be given. I'll just say that. Right. I don't really know, because when you do things for charity, it's just, there are a lot of rules. So I don't really know all of the rules. I'm going to be honest, but yes, something like being on the show, we can absolutely do. And I'd love to hear from Glenn and Elijah. Maybe they can share their FFT Open strategy from last year or something like that. So I will reach out to you guys. Or actually, why don't you send me an email, fantasyfootball@cbsi.com. Just make it clear who you are. And we'll chat and hopefully get you on the show because you do deserve some recognition. And yeah, I think there should be something for winning the FFT Open. But just so you know, I've talked about prizes with people. I don't know the answer. But there are just certain things that can and cannot be done when it comes to charity and prizes and things like that. We're not trying to hold out on you.
Johnny finally noticed that we're wearing the same.
I know we really are wearing like the same exact color, and it's a little bit different, but it's not a conventional color. It's very weird. Oh wait, we have a birthday in here. Where's I think it's Benjamin. Where are you, dude?
Happy birthday, Ben.
If it was Ben, in fact. Yep, there he is. It's my birthday, you fools. Me. You should feel that way. I feel that way on my birthday a little bit. Like it is about you. Good for you, Ben. All right, next question. I don't have a name here. Is this a different question or is this from the same? Is this also from Glenn? I think it's different. Okay. 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex, PPR, 10 team. Should I keep Jonathan Taylor in round 7 or T. Higgins in round 8?
So again, 10-team league, how are you going to separate yourself? The round differential is not so much for me. I would.
Sorry, I big fact here I have to give you. Sorry, he can keep T. Higgins in 2026, but not Jonathan Taylor.
Then that's easy. You're keeping Higgins.
Yeah. Okay. From Jack, is it a mistake to take a tight end and a quarterback within the first 4 to 5 rounds to have advantages at those positions? Would league or roster size make any difference?
So go read our latest recap of our mock draft on cbssports.com. I actually did this with the 12th pick in a 12-team PPR mock draft. I started with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Ashton Genty with my first 2 picks. And then we got to rounds 3 and 4. And I didn't love the value for the wide receivers and running backs. So I took the best available quarterback, which was Lamar Jackson, first quarterback off the board. and George Kittle, who was the third tight end at the time. So I don't love doing that personally.
What a non-Jamie team that is. I love it.
Very, and again, that's the thing. And I will tell this to anybody as much as possible. We are in mock draft season, and you are July to August. You have the opportunity to do as many mock drafts as you possibly can. CBSSports.com is a great mock draft product. I'm sure there are other sites that do great mock draft products as well. Do them. Pick the draft spot that you think you're going to be in, especially if you know it already. But try them all and try different strategies. So once I did and committed to that, then it came back in rounds 5 and 6, and I was okay. Now this is something totally different from what I'm used to doing or typically do, and now I've got to find a different way to approach it. So that's the thing I think you need to find out. Do you like it? Do you not like it? And so I did not have a problem with it, because when you take a step back, right? We always in the middle of a draft, like, oh, I love my running backs, I love my receivers, quarterback maybe, tight end maybe, but you take a step back from it, right? And you have the full scope of the roster. I have, if they hit from what they did a year ago, number 1 quarterback and number 1 tight end in terms of points per game.
Jackson Kittle. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to tell you, if you're watching on YouTube, I got Jamie's roster up. If not, I'll read it to you. So he's got Lamar Jackson at quarterback, Genty and Judkins at running back, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Travis Hunter, and Darnell Mooney at wide receiver, George Kittle at tight end, and Stephon Diggs at flex. But on the bench, Trevor Lawrence to back up Jackson. I love your bench. Except for one pick. Eckler, Tajay Spears, Keon Coleman, and Jaden Reed. I think you did great here. I mean, on the surface, St. Brown, Travis Hunter, Darnell Mooney, Stephon Diggs in your starting lineup. I'm sure you'd like to be a little bit better than that, but you picked really good players late, like Mooney and Coleman and Jaden Reed. I don't love the Samson pick. I feel like he's useless. I feel like Jerome Ford is the guy to get if you.
He might be
Judkins.
He might be.
But who am I to disagree with you?
And I will say, the minute I clicked Trevor Lawrence, I should have taken just Raheem Mostert.
Okay, yeah, to back up Genty. I think it could work. Absolutely could work. I probably need Jackson and Kittle, not necessarily to be as great as they were last year, but to be standouts at their position. And I would say Travis Hunter is the swing pick for you, is the guy who's going to determine. You took him 60th overall at the 5-6 turn. Hunter, to me, is the guy who's going to determine the fate of this team that won't be played out.
So, and one other thing that I did do consciously was I was staring at Montgomery and Jameson Williams, and I was like, I'll just differentiate instead of taking all the Lions. I probably should have taken Montgomery instead of Judkins.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Do you realize that Montgomery has scored 25 touchdowns in 28 games with the Lions?
Since they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, he's been one of the best picks in fantasy. Montgomery, he got hurt a couple years ago, but he's just been a really good value. All right.
Hold on. So that's 25 in the last 28 games. So they've scored 42 rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons from non-Jahmyr Gibbs, non-DeAndre Swift running backs.
Jamal Williams and Montgomery. Wow. All right. This is from Jake in New Jersey. This is cool. Listen to this. I've been a listener since I was in high school 10 years ago, and I listened to you guys on the daily. I can't tell you how many times back in high school, my teacher would tell me to take out my headphones in class because I was too busy listening to you and not her. LOL.
That's awesome.
Now that I'm in my late 20s and still listen all the time, I wanted to donate to this great cause. Thank you, Jake. Redraft, 12 teams, 6-point PP.
You know what? Wait, before you go on. So I'm going to do the, what did we call it last year?
Oh,
the leftover leagues.
Yeah.
Jake, you're the first entry in the leftover leagues.
That's awesome.
Send an email to what's our email address again?
No, I've been saying it for 16 years.
Fantasy football today at CBSI.com.
No. Fantasy football at, oh wait, what is it? Fantasy football at CBSI.com.
All right. Jake, send an email to fantasyfootball at CBSI.com and put leftover league in it. Only Jake. I'm not opening it up yet to anybody else.
Actually, no, you know what? We'll just do it through Claire. She's got Jake's email address. Claire will reach out to Jake.
All right.
We got you, Jake. You're in the Leftover league. Yes, good stuff. All right. Jamie did a bunch of those last year. All right. Jake's in a 12-team, 6-point per passing touchdown, full PPR league with 1 quarterback, 2 flex, 2 wide receiver. What would your desired draft slot be? And what would your strategy be with that desired draft spot? And P.S., I'm 5'8", and I'm looking at Dan on camera, and there is no way that dude is over 5'6".
But for anybody who missed the show yesterday, the best compliment Adam's ever gotten from Alfredo Brown.
It's so funny. It's like Alfredo thought I was the second tallest among Dave, Heath, Jamie.
Like, that's not insulting to me. Like, Dave should be pissed.
But it just makes you wonder, like, how could anybody possibly guess height just by looking at a picture where the 4 of us all look like we're the same height?
Yep.
Right, and I'm by far the shortest. All right, so this is a pretty standard league, except 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. Mm-hmm. Where do you want to draft in its 12-team format, PPR? Which pick do you want, and what's your strategy?
I would probably look to take one of the first 4 picks. If you want to guarantee yourself one of Chase or Bijan, which I would love to have, I would take 2. So at least you're getting the second player there. There's so much variance that we're seeing in the second round at this point, of players. Like, think about what we had the conversation yesterday. The football guys ADP has Christian McCaffrey in round 2. We're taking him in round 1. Devon Achane still going in round 2. We just had him go 3rd overall. Are the tight ends going to be in round 2? Where are the quarterbacks going to start to come off the board? So I would just want to try and guarantee myself one of the top picks in round 1. And then when you get to round 2, there's going to be so many players that are in somewhat of a similar tier in the 20 to 24 range. Like, why not guarantee yourself the top player or players in the first 3 or 4 picks? For me, that would be Bijan, and then the 3 receivers of Chase, Jefferson, and Lamb. And then you're still going to get a very good player or a couple of players in that round 2-3 range. So I would go early in the first round.
Okay. An argument against that might be taking the 7th pick or the 8th pick, something like that, and getting 2 of the top, let's say 18 players, which maybe ends at AJ Brown. Because after that, you do have a really big tier of really good players, but they seem less safe and less certain. And if you have, let's say, the 7th pick, if you had the 7th pick in the draft that we just did, who would your 3rd round pick have been? Probably, let's see.
Rashee Rice, Devontae Adams.
Oh, so I had the 6th pick. So I went McCaffrey, AJ Brown, which is exactly what I wanted. And then I took Tyreek Hill.
It's incredible.
Well, it is.
Risky, but that's incredible.
It is right. McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, how many times have I talked about it? They're 2 of my favorite players. I'm a little nervous to have them both on one team. And the first draft we've done in a long time, I took them both on one team.
But you can't pass up that value, though.
And I was very happy to get AJ Brown. Now, James Cook went ahead of him. Drake London, Jonathan Taylor went ahead of him. But, the 2 tight ends went after him. But if you think like AJ Brown is sort of a cutoff of proven elite players, maybe you don't. It depends how you see it. I wouldn't mind getting 2 of the top 18 players, because I still think in the middle of the 3rd round, I can get a pretty damn good player. But honestly, I don't know that there's a right answer here. It's just how you see the draft. And it also depends on how you feel about the tight ends. You want one of those 2 tight ends or not? But
I think one will be, again, based on ADP that we're seeing, one will probably be there at the 2-3 turn.
It's risky to rely on that. But based on ADP, the ADP we talked about yesterday with Alfredo, that is where Trey McBride is going. If you want to play a little safer, you might want to take like the 4th pick, because I think then you'll get McBride or Bowers. Okay, and the last question is from Andrew. He's got the first pick in a 10-team, 2-quarterback league. Right now, he is keeping Brock Purdy, Brian Thomas Jr., and Bucky Irving. He also has 4 of the first 21 picks. 1st, 13th, 20th, and 21st. Planning on taking a quarterback with the 1st pick. So what direction would you go with the next 3 picks? Would you grab another quarterback and get a 3rd? Take the best running backs and wide receivers available? So at this point, he will have Purdy, a 2nd quarterback, whoever that might be, Brian Thomas Jr. and Bucky Irving, and he'll have 3 more picks in the next 20 picks. It's from 13, 20, and 13, 19, and 20, basically, after he picks, or 12, 19, 20, whatever. What would you do there?
I'm a little confused. So everybody's keeping 3 players?
Looks that way, yeah.
And his keepers are Purdy,
Brian Thomas Jr. and Bucky Irving. He has the first pick. It's a 10-team league. He's going to take a quarterback. So he's going to have his 2 quarterbacks, Brian Thomas Jr. and Bucky Irving. He then has, after that pick, he has picks 13, 20, and 21.
Is it smarter to take a quarterback first or to take Genty first?
Oh, I would take Genty.
I would take Genty too.
It's possible that there's a great quarterback, but probably not.
Oh, well, he's saying other quarterbacks most likely being kept are Stroud, Mayfield, Love, Kyler, Stafford, Darnold, and May.
Right, but why wouldn't someone keep?
Maybe they're not allowed to.
Josh Allen. Okay, right. If Josh Allen and Jackson and all that are available,
that's a different conversation. Yes. Okay. So if you can take Lamar or Allen, that's the smart way to go in round 1. And since it's a 10-team league, he's picking 13. Is that what you said?
Yes.
First, 13th, 20th, 21st. So I don't think you get Genty at 13, but if these are the keepers.
Yeah, but like if you can take a super elite quarterback at 1, do it. Otherwise, right, take Genty, and if you're going to get a Trevor Lawrence type of player or a Tua or something like that.
Oh, I would think. I mean, if we're telling Andrew to take Genty. First off, I mean, McCaffrey might be available if you trust him more than Genty for a redraft. But yeah, I think Genty's probably the best non-quarterback keeper. Hard to say, unless again those quarterbacks are there. But if there's, let's say 4 or 5, no, I think you take the quarterback. I'm gonna go back on that, because if we're talking 10-team league, you're gonna get, and all 5 of the top quarterbacks are available. They're all going in the first round. So 13, you're still going to get a very high-end player.
If all 5 of them are available, yeah. Yeah. Depend. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. It's a little confusing. Just listen to what Jamie said. We're going to take a break and come back with your Apple Podcast questions, your emails, your YouTube comments, a couple of Twitter polls, and we'll be right back after this.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure.
Just try to keep up.
Every face-off.
This ends now.
And every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime!
all 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
We are back on Fantasy Football today. Let's take a look at this Twitter poll I did this morning, the second iteration of it, because in the first one I had a stupid typo, of course. Looking forward to talking about Bucky Irving today. How do you feel about drafting Irving at the 2-3 turn, let's say 24th overall? Great, fine, or nope, too soon. And honestly, it's pretty close. Only 301 votes. It's a pretty new poll. But let me zoom in a little more. Sorry. But yeah, great has 34%, fine 39%, nope 27%, 28%. How do you feel about that? Bucky Irving, 24th overall. That was his ADP, I believe, on Football Guys.
That's where I have him ranked. Back end of round 2, early part of round 3. I mean, I think you look at, he's in that group of running backs. We spent some time talking about this yesterday. So Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, Kyron Williams, I think before the James Cook, Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara range of guys. So these are going to be running backs that sort of, and going back to the, where do you want to pick your draft slot? So if you like these running backs and consider them to be, top 10 caliber players, look, the way Bucky Irving finished last year, is that a sign of things to come? Is he going to dominate touches like he did in the end of the regular season into the playoffs, or is it going to be more of the split that we saw earlier in the season? So I'm fairly confident. You're going to hear some more Sean Tucker talk. I don't think he's someone to really worry about. It's really, does Rachaad White get back to having role? He's had 50 catches in every year of his career. Last year, he matched his career high with 9 total touchdowns. He averaged a career best 4.3 yards per carry. Does Rachaad White's role get back to being what it was, or is he just completely minimized? So Irving was still very good, even when White was, getting those opportunities early in the season. So I think if you were to say that White's role is completely minimized, then Bucky Irving's probably going in the Devon Achane range. Like, that's how good he was at the end of the season.
Oh man, he was top 5 or 6 running back per game from week 10 on. And he didn't really start getting the feature work until week, I want to say 16. The last 4 games of the season, Bucky Irving, including the playoffs, the last 4 games of the season, he had 72 carries and Rashad White had 10. But I did a little bit of digging just for some comps, some comparisons. Because what's the nervousness about Bucky Irving? Well, he ran a pretty slow 40 time. He doesn't have great speed, and he was a 4th round pick in the NFL draft in 2024. We've been burned in the past by day 3 picks or undrafted free agents that have been really good as rookies and disappointed for the rest of their career. James Robinson in his 2nd season, I think that
he was undrafted though.
Yeah, no, he was. James, he could have been better. They didn't use him right, I think, in his 2nd season. Alfred Morris kind of flamed out. Phillip Rivers. There were a couple of guys. Like, none of them were nearly as good.
Rivers?
Phillip Lindsay. None of them were as good as Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving averaged 5.4 yards per carry. He had arguably the best advanced metrics of any running back, right up there. I mean, there are like 8 categories that I look at, and he was top 10 in 7 of them on True Media. So amazing. But I looked at the yards per carry leaders for running backs with a minimum of 100 carries as rookies. Number 1 with a bullet, 7.8 yards per carry. Who is the best rookie running back of all time?
Recent?
Yeah, yes, recent. Just in terms of yards per carry.
7.8?
Very, very recent. You just said his name.
Bucky?
Devon Achane.
Oh.
Yeah. Achane 1, Kamara, Dobbins, Maurice Jones-Drew, Thomas Rawls, Adrian Peterson, Franco Harris, Andre Ellington, Clinton Portis, DeMarco Murray, Kerryon Johnson, Bucky Irving, Ontario Smith, Phillip Lindsay. These guys all average 5.4 yards per carry or more with at least 100 carries as rookies. It's got a little bit in common with Kerryon Johnson, who was a 2nd round pick in the NFL draft. Bucky was a 4th round pick, but Kerryon Johnson's ADP in his 2nd year was 29th. He was a huge bust. Thomas Rawls, undrafted free agent, averaged 5.4 yards per carry, 5.6 yards per carry. One of the best marks ever for a rookie. And then he averaged 3.2 yards per carry in his 2nd season. You know what his ADP was? His ADP was 43rd. So people bought into him enough. Andre Ellington averaged 5.5 yards per carry as a rookie, 3.3 yards per carry in his 2nd season. His ADP, according to Fantasy Football Calculator, Andre Ellington's ADP in 2016 was 24th overall. It's exactly the same as Bucky Irving. So I don't know if these comps matter to you at all, but other guys who had exceptional rookie years should be noted. They were closer to 100 carries, whereas Bucky was over 200. Thomas Rawls, 147 carries, for example. But they flamed out. That I still have that concern in the back of my mind. And the draft you mentioned, the one we did a few days ago, Bucky Irving versus Tyreek Hill in the 3rd round. It was a tough call for me. Ultimately, I went Tyreek Hill. But what do you think about just these comps to these 2nd-year running backs who really struggled?
We just had a comment in the chat, which I think is relevant, about when does the draft capital stop mattering for some of these guys. And I mean, we've had these discussions. It really goes a variety of different ways because, like, how the NFL is valuing this position, right? Kyron Williams, I know he didn't have much of a rookie season because of the foot injury, but he was a day 3 guy. Look at how he's performed with the same system. Isaiah Pacheco, prior to getting injured last year, I think everybody would have seen how he would have produced, and we'll find out what they think of him this year. Bucky Irving's another guy that's now, a day 3 guy coming off a strong rookie season. And we've obviously seen some, some 1st round rookies not exactly perform up to their, expectations. Rashad Penny, for example, not performing well. I think Heath sort of, discovered something, talked about this maybe 2 years ago, that if the coaching staff is the same, there's a better chance of these guys hitting because these are the guys that invested in them, saw them, had success, right? James Robinson, coach changed, or he was.
Yeah, I think it was Urban Meyer just kind of screwed with him and didn't use him enough, I
But
think.
they also drafted ETN, so there was part of that too. I kind of fall into that line of thinking. It makes sense, that if the regime is the same, these are the guys that sort of discovered this player and like them. Damian Pierce is another one, right? That we got excited about because of the way that he performed his rookie season, and then coaching change, and all of a sudden he's not as good.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say that there's, okay, this happened the next year, it's going to be the same for every player, every spot. I think that's the tricky part that we have to sort of parse through. And for Bucky Irving, yes, there's a coordinator change. The personnel is the same, but that's potentially good or potentially bad because you have some talented players in that running back room. I just think that Bucky's got an opportunity to build off what he did, and Todd Bowles loves this kid. Rachaad White's probably not going to be resigned. He's heading into his final year of his rookie deal. Like, they may use White. Though I'll just take it. The way that I'm viewing it is not the way Bucky finished last year, because otherwise I would have him ranked higher. I'm viewing it more like what we started to see as the breakout was unfolding. Like, he's going to be a 60 to 70% snap guy as opposed to an 80+ snap guy.
Yeah. Two more things on Bucky Irving, and he's a fascinating player because of what he showed last year. But among running backs, he had last year one of the lowest third down route participation rates. Rachaad White had the highest. He was tied with, who was he tied with? Tied with Kyron Williams, actually. And Rachaad White had the highest route participation rate among running backs, like relevant running backs with 100 more carries on third down. So Bucky Irving is almost never on the field on third down. In fact, one game that Rachaad White missed, he played 5 third down snaps. That was a season high for him. So, or he ran 5 third down routes. Sorry. I think that was a season high for him. That is kind of a big deal. The only running back that's going to be in the same range as what Bucky Irving was last year in terms of route participation on third down and be drafted early is Derrick Henry for sure, and maybe James Cook.
Maybe Taylor too.
Maybe Taylor, but
if they like Giddens to play in that role.
I didn't see him on that list in either of the last 2 years. So I could take another look at Taylor, because I think Taylor actually plays. Now, Taylor plays on third down so far in his career more than you would think. Bucky's
I'm just saying this year that may change.
Okay, well, that would be bad. Anyway, I don't want to spend the whole show.
Not really. I mean, he was still good with only 18 catches.
He was, but it's not super important. Like, Joe Mixon is a guy I always talk about. He wasn't the third down back for the Bengals. He wasn't the third down back for the Texans. And he still manages about 50 catches most years because they throw to him on first and second down.
Right, but Taylor's not going to have that scenario.
But but just speaking in terms of Bucky Irving, while Mixon wasn't the third down back, his third down route participation rate was still higher than Bucky Irving's was. So anyway, topic for another show, I guess, to get into a little bit more, because he's talking about getting a guy like him in the third round, when we've seen he can produce like a first rounder. He's a huge pick, a really interesting player. All right, second Twitter poll here. I wanted to share. I want to get your thoughts on it. What would you have done? I don't know if you voted in this one. Sorry. Just killing time. Okay. Ready to share my screen now. Okay. Monday, I marinated chicken strips and put them in the fridge to cook tonight, which was Wednesday. So I put this on Wednesday. I marinated chicken strips and put them in the fridge on Monday in the hopes of cooking them Wednesday. Tuesday night, I left the refrigerator open for about 60 to 90 minutes. Pathetic. Everything in the refrigerator was warm. Fast forward to Wednesday. I smell the chicken. It smells fine. Would you still cook/eat the chicken, Jamie?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I did. The Twitter polls, I had almost 2,000 votes. 58% said yes. 42% said no. This was definitely the tweet that had the most comments with the word diarrhea in it that I've ever posted. None of that. I'm happy to report none of that. I ate almost all of the chicken, and it was a success.
See, I always, when I have stuff like this, questions about food, the first thing I always ask myself is, would I give it to my children?
But I didn't give it to my children.
See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the 100% answer.
Yeah, I didn't give it to them.
Yep.
So yes, I did draw the line there.
Why did you give me McDonald's, Dad, but you're eating that?
Yes. All right, Matt from a town on the Jersey Shore. I don't know any towns on the Cape May. Hey, Isaiah, Gus, Ray, and Brian. Isaiah, Gus, Ray, and Brian.
Isaiah, Gus, Ray, and Brian. So,
I don't know.
It's not Pistons.
Are these Rutgers running backs? Maybe.
Oh,
Pacheco and Edwards. I don't know. I can keep Nico in the
how's
third.
Isaiah spelled?
What's that?
How's Isaiah?
Yeah,
spelled?
Isaiah spelled like Pacheco. Isiah.
Interesting.
I can keep Nico in the third or T. Higgins in the fifth. Full PPR.
I'm keeping Nico.
Yeah, he's a little worried about Nico because the numbers dropped off after the injury. But that's exactly why I'm not worried about Nico, because I feel like it was obviously because of the injury. I'm hoping anyway. I got my fingers crossed on that. Is that kind of how you feel?
Yeah, I'm not so worried about his injury as much as I am the Texans' offensive line and the unknown of what the other receivers will bring, because it's a completely revamped receiving core, right? Kirk in, Higgins in. There's just some, okay, how much targets does he, keeps him from his high end potential, but it's so hard to overlook how great he's been and how much CJ Stroud relies on him.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's still okay. This would be disappointing, I know, but Nico, after the injury, after he missed 5 games with I think it was a hamstring, he averaged 15.8 PPR fantasy points per game, which
Whole
would be
team was a disaster though, passing game wise.
Yeah. All right. This question is from James in Queens. I am the commissioner of a long-standing 14-team non-PPR league. After what seemed like years of nothing but running back and wide receiver in the first 10 rounds, we made the switch to Superflex about 5 years ago. The move gets annual belly aching from multiple league members. First question, was going to Superflex in a 14-team league dumb in the first place? Secondly, a suggestion was made this year to keep Superflex, but make it a 2 quarterback per roster maximum. Current maximum is 4. Also open to any ideas about 14-team roster equity, such as half PPR, adding an additional flex spot, etc.
Does he have the scoring for the quarterbacks there?
No, but it is a non-PPR league, which I think you should not do Superflex and non-PPR. I think you should always do full PPR with Superflex personally.
Or half, at least to give some benefit to the positions. I think going from 4 to 2 is a mistake. I'd probably cap the quarterback roster limits at 3. So at least give people the opportunity to carry a backup to the backup. So what we were talking about earlier, if you want to carry Joe Milton, or if you want to carry, Garoppolo or one of these guys, just don't really handicap people from only carrying 2 quarterbacks. But I think if you're at 4 points for passing touchdowns and it's full PPR, then it sort of balances the teams that are going to have some crappy second quarterbacks or some crappy super flex quarterbacks. So it's tough in 14-team leagues, clearly, but I think you can still get it done. But you just have to make sure the other positions are balanced scoring, balanced scoring wise.
Right. I would not want to play in a 14-team Superflex league personally. You get an injury at quarterback and you're just screwed. I wouldn't want to play in a 14-team Superflex league that capped it at 2 quarterbacks, because then you actually have starting quarterbacks on the waiver wire, which is weird. But if you're going to go through with it, yeah, you've got to figure out a way to devalue quarterback. You do that by PPR, adding other flexes, stuff like that. You just can't make it so that a team that has quarterback injuries is just done. This is from No Namer City. Sorry about that. I've compiled a list of who is this year's version of last year's player. This year's Breece Hall, a top 3 pick at his position that falls outside the top 12 at his position. My pick is Justin Jefferson.
Hate it, but okay.
I mean, if you're going to pick a top 3 guy at the position, we're not going to like any of them, but that would be Chase, Lamb, or Jefferson. And I would go with Lamb, I guess. Not Jefferson.
I mean, look, if you got to be worried about McCarthy, right? So if
right,
you're worried
who's
about McCarthy,
more of a concern for you, Lamb or Jefferson?
Neither, but I guess if I am nitpicking, I would say Jefferson, because there's a huge unknown.
This year's Travis Etienne, a top 12 pick at his position that completely falls off. My pick is Bucky Irving.
Again, if you think that it was fluky and coordinator change and really like White or Sean Tucker, then okay. I don't see it, but okay.
I don't see it. Boy, who could it
If
be?
we're putting somebody in this category, I would think it's James Cook.
I don't know if he's top 12, but he's close enough.
Oh, it's got to be top 12. Sorry.
He's 14 on Football Guys ADP. I would say, oh man, between Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, and Kyron Williams, I think it would be one of them. But again, I'm hoping it's none. This year's Anthony Richardson, a top 10 quarterback that flops. My pick is Justin Fields.
Probably injury related. Like anytime the guy's been a starter, he's been 20 plus points per game.
Who else would it be? A top 10 quarterback that flops.
Caleb.
I don't think he's going top 10.
Knicks, I guess, maybe.
Oh, Knicks would be my answer. I know there's rushing there, but he would be my answer. And I'm not a huge Mayfield guy, but I think I'm being stupid there. I think he's going to be fine. This year's Zamir White, a mid-round player that is only getting drafted because of projected volume, but he busts. My pick is DeAndre Swift.
You can see it.
Any other people come to mind there? For me, it's Chuba Hubbard, but he's going a little earlier than that.
I mean, if you're banking on the rookies to get a lot of touches in terms of Harvey, Judkins, and Caleb Johnson.
And Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard's a better pick than Chuba Hubbard, and he goes like 3 or 4 rounds later. But I don't know that the volume is even going to be there. The difference is Pollard's really good. You know, he's not Zamir White. This year's
right. Yeah, I mean, Zamir White was so fluky.
Yeah. This year's Chicago Bears, a projected decent offense, but becomes bottom 10 in scoring. He didn't give an answer for this. And this year's Commanders, a projected bad offense, but becomes top 10 in scoring.
Bears again.
I honestly think so, that the Bears could have a Caleb Williams problem. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's a team that does jump out at me as could be really disappointing for fantasy.
And then a team that comes out of nowhere scoring wise.
Yeah,
I can see the Falcons.
How about the previous one? You know, team that could be bad offensively. It really never happens in the Dak Prescott era. But do you think the Cowboys could just be bad offensively?
Not if Dak's healthy.
Probably not. Just like Dak's getting a little older. Offensive line isn't what it once was. I love that they brought in Pickens, but they just they don't have they have two. Yeah. I mean, they have talent at receiver. I don't know if they have a lot of talent at running back. And I don't love the coaching situation there. I don't love the direction of the franchise.
Is the running back situation that much worse than it was a year ago?
No. Could be a lot better if Javante's sharp.
Or the rookies. I mean, like we may be spending a lot of time early in the season talking about Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa as waiver wire guys.
Yeah, for sure. Hello, Matthew, Aaron, and Stetson. No idea.
Stetson. Wasn't there a quarterback Stetson?
College football, yes. Stetson.
Georgia quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah. Matthew Stafford. Aaron, oh gosh. Georgia quarterback, Aaron. Who the hell was it?
I'm blanking.
Aaron Murray?
No idea.
Yeah, Aaron Murray. Okay. I'm in an 8-man PPR league with no kicker, no DST, and 3 flex spots. Should I keep St. Brown or London? I'm leaning London because I think he has more upside than St. Brown.
In a 1-year keeper league, I would keep St. Brown, but you know, as I will always say, if you have a gut feeling on somebody, they're close enough. So keep London.
Okay, and that was from Matt Wheeler. Thank you, Matt, for the question. I wonder, he basically says St. Brown's not a league winner. He's going to be very good, but not a league winner. Do you kind of feel that way about St. Brown? I think we might be selling him short. He's capable.
He's been
of
so
doing
good
that.
for 3 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that he's wide receiver 7 per game, averaged 18.5 PPR fantasy points. That's a league winner. Maybe he didn't average 20, but that's a terrific player.
So where is he for you? Like for me, he's behind the top 3. Puka's 4, Neighbors is 5, Nico 6, and St. Brown is 7.
Remember I did my rankings. He's at least 6. Chase, Puka, Nico, Lamb, Jefferson are my top 5. The only ones that I know for sure, the only one that I am set in stone is Chase at 1. After that, Puka, Nico, Lamb, Jefferson could go anywhere 2 through 5. I think I would go Neighbors. I might take Thomas ahead of St. Brown. St. Brown's going to be
over St. Brown, right?
Oh, for sure. Nico's going to be 2 or 3 for me. St. Brown's going to be 7 or 8 for me. And I'm sorry that I know I should have clear cut, this is where they are in 1 through 8. But I change my mind all the time, and they all have really good cases. So it's tough. It's tough for me. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I might do 3 drafts. I might take 3 different wide receivers at the same spot, and I'm fine with that. Diversify. Some Apple Podcast questions. This one is from Lewis, from the fireworks capital of America and also the home of Warner Brothers. Is that not Los Angeles? I don't know. Warner Brothers home. I don't know. Smallville? Do they do that? Hey, Rob, Glenn, Danny, and Charlie. No clue. Keep one in... Rob, Glenn, Danny, and Charlie. Keep one in PPR. Nico Collins in the 4th or JSN in the 6th?
Collins in the 4th.
Yeah. It's always sunny in Philadelphia.
I was going to say that because of Charlie and Danny.
There you go. This is from Sean in West Palm Beach. Hey, Nick, Monroe, Rosalie, and Hank. We get some real stumpers today. What the hell is Grim? Grim is a thing, apparently.
The Ryan Reynolds movie?
Maybe. Okay, I got to look into this. Debo, maybe you can help. Sean says, congratulations on podcast number 2000. I don't even know how he would know that, but I feel like we've probably blown past 2000, but
ever?
Yeah. How many do we do? We've been doing this for 16 years. So 2000, this is year 16, I think. Let's say 15 years. 2000 divided by 15 is 133 a year. We definitely do that. Oh, our producer Debo is saying Apple stops at 2000. We're way past that. Okay, we're way past that. But thank you for congratulating us. Can you discuss all 32 offensive lines? So he wants us to do a segment on that. We can't do that now, obviously, but yeah, who are some offensive lines? So the Broncos had arguably the best offensive line in football last year. Eagles, yeah. I mean, Eagles, I feel like people know that. I didn't even realize how good the Broncos offensive line was. An offensive line that could get a lot better this year, hopefully, Titans. They brought in 2 in free agency, Dan Moore and Kevin Zeitler. They are moving J.C. Latham to right tackle. I don't think he was so good at left tackle. They've got 2 early round picks in the last 2 years, 2 players in free agency that the Titans could be a lot better.
Seattle can get better. Miami can get better.
Oh, I feel like Miami's going to be horrible.
Well, they were horrible. I mean, they can get better. Obviously, the Bears got better with the additions that they made.
Bears, yeah. Chiefs are hoping they have their left tackle now because they struggle.
True, yep.
But yeah, we'll dedicate more time to it.
The Panthers are criminally underrated, always.
Yep, they had a solid line. And believe it or not, I think the Giants, if they stay healthy, could have an above average.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
All right, let's get to our YouTube comments. Patriots line. The Patriots line's really interesting, Michael. Thank you for asking on YouTube. I think people are projecting a big leap from them. They spent the 4th overall pick on a left tackle, Will Campbell.
David Andrews' loss could be big.
Who did they bring in? Morgan Moses, was it? And I think they brought in a center. I'm still skeptical because you're talking about going from arguably the worst offensive line in football last year to being good. I don't really see it, especially because a lot of rookie left tackles really struggle. And I think the Patriots offensive line is still going to be bad.
But again, similar to what I said about Miami, like they were bad last year, so there's only one way to go.
Yeah, you can have a good offense with a bad offensive line. By the way, Zedbout wants to know: do we take concussion history in account when drafting?
I was having this conversation today about Chris Olave and when to draft him because we mentioned this on the mid-round receiver show. Like, he's going to end up being, if he stays healthy, one of the best value picks because he can clearly be the best receiver on that team. And if the quarterback play is just even competent, where you're getting him basically round 6 or later is fantastic. But yes, the concussions are problematic, so these concussions, soft tissue injuries, like these are things that you should worry about more so than if a player is going to tear a ligament, because you can't control that. But if there's a history of these type of things, like, it should worry you.
I feel like I used to have this concern about Devontae Adams. I think he had a concussion history. 2016 and 17, I think he had 3 concussions. So I stopped caring about that. I think 2 years ago, Tua stayed healthy. Obviously, Tua's got this horrible concussion injury and history. And if he gets another one, I mean, honestly, it could be the end of his career. So that'd be the one guy that I'd highlight.
How much time did Adams miss? Because it's still one of these things where
back then, Jamie, they didn't have the protocol.
Yeah.
So I think he got a concussion and he played on a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. But there's been a long time. It's almost 10 years now. Any hope for Travis Etienne, SZN?
Absolutely, especially at his cost. You're talking about a player that was over 16 PPR points per game in 2023. Basically got cut in half last year. Is this the type of player that he is, or is he still a first-round talent that can have a potential big bounce-back season with a new coach? So I know we're all looking at Tootin and saying, okay, this could be the guy for the Jaguars because of what Bucky Irving did for Liam Cohen, and this is the guy that he drafted with his first draft class. But I wouldn't shock me at all if Etienne is back to being a number 2 running back as opposed to being a top 10 guy. I don't think he has that in his resume with Tank Bigsby and Tootin there, but there's still amazing potential for where you're drafting him.
Yeah, I do. Heath brought this up. I think Tootin could have almost no role this year, very small. But I think he could. I think he could earn a big role. It's possible, but I think it's also possible that he has very little role. Bigsby's going to have a role.
There's a few backfields right now that I'm very curious to see what happens in training camp. Giants with Scadaboo and Tracy, Jaguars with the 3 guys there, the Browns. You mentioned Jerome Ford and what his role could be. We had the report that he could still be the starter, comparatively to the 2 rookies. So there's a few that you got to really see what's going to happen.
Cowboys for me.
Yep.
And I drafted Javonte Williams over Travis Etienne. And when did we do that draft? Wednesday's draft. It was a very tough call for me, but I'm very interested in Javonte and his ability to maybe just be the guy. All right, let me just get 1 or 2 more questions here. Do you feel more comfortable taking Bucky or Hampton in Dynasty? Hampton.
That's a great question.
It is a great question, but I'm going to go Hampton.
I might still go Bucky just because Rachaad White's probably gone after this year. And we saw what that looked like at the end of last season when he was getting phased out. It was close.
It did look good. It still didn't change his 3rd down role, but the 3rd down role was Rachaad White's. So what would that change if Rachaad White were gone? All right, I'm looking for one more question. Not really getting a lot here. Mike is saying he likes Brenton Strange. Well, this isn't really a question. It's just about Travis Etienne. And Michael, this is other Michael here saying, I'm going Roschon Johnson over Swift.
Based on the cost, you can, if you want to get a piece of the Bears backfield, but I'd be very surprised if both are healthy and Swift is not getting more touches.
All right, we're out of here, folks. Have a wonderful weekend. We will talk to you on Monday with a new episode of Fantasy Football Today. Get excited for the FFT Open. You've got 10 days until the spots are available for the FFT Open. Help us raise $66,000 for St. Jude. Jamie, have a great weekend. I want to thank everybody who produced this week. Debo's producing today. We had Harry. Who else did we have? We had Stryker producing. A lot of people really helping out with Thomas out for the week. Thomas will be back, I believe, on Monday. And so will we. Talk to you then. See you later, everybody.